Running a restaurant is a notoriously risky business. But imagine on top of that, surviving and adapting after the unrest in Ferguson 10 years ago, the national media coverage, and then the COVID pandemic. And yet, Cathy's Kitchen has survived with a creative menu and a business model that is impacting more than its customers. Cathy's Kitchen in Ferguson has seen its share of change over the past decade. Diners order and pay for their meals at computerized kiosks. The restaurant does not accept cash. The wait staff bringing food to the table is robotic. And even though customers aren't packing the place during lunch and dinner service was eliminated, business here is robust due to the high volume of delivery orders. Cathy's Kitchen owners, Cathy and Jerome Jenkins, say those developments and many more can be traced back to the shooting death of Michael Brown by a Ferguson police officer in 2014.
We were here 1 year before the death of Michael Brown. And that timeline for us, we were just getting a hold of the restaurant. You know, we just putting everything together. We were just at the point of telling you kind of we're here.
Right.
And immediately that happened, and we're right next to the police department. So that timeline started like that. Nobody came. And one, you know, the streets were blocked off.
Right, it was a
presence.
lot happening then. Yeah, it was.
So for us, the beginning for us was zero sales. The way you look at it, it just went from barely, because you know, you have to let people know you're here, and you're struggling on that when you first open. And before we could catch our breath, Mike Brown happened.
Right.
So it started where nobody was in Cathy's Kitchen.
Yeah, and so it kind of was a blessing for later that you didn't know, because the people who were coming in here to eat, they were the protesters.
Right.
It's important to note the demonstrators Cathy Jenkins referred to were here to have their voices heard peacefully. That made all the difference with her next move.
Cathy made an important decision because nobody was coming into the restaurant and we had all this food. Cathy decided to cook all the food we had, and she went out there and fed everybody that was just standing in the street. So they paid it back forward to us, was just priceless, by protecting it.
It was Cathy's Kitchen. Supportive protesters formed a human chain outside the restaurant to protect it from people with mayhem on their minds. In the end, the only damage done to the place was a broken window. The incident made Cathy's Kitchen a ray of positivity in a sea of negative media coverage that stigmatized Ferguson for years.
Nobody wants to come to Ferguson.
Yeah.
So
we were getting hate mail.
Yeah, you get hate mail, we get phone calls. You got it all.
Right, I always say to Jerome, I always thought we were living in this black and white world together, but I realized before Mike Brown, I was living in the gray. And I didn't know, and it became truly black and white after that.
Yes, to get you to come was the challenge, because if you didn't live over here, you thought it was burned down, because what they showed you on television, it was a nightmare to the eyes of people.
For the next several years, protesters gathered in Ferguson to either mark an anniversary of Michael Brown's death or for social justice protests following other police killings of unarmed African Americans across the country. By 2020, changes in the business model of Cathy's Kitchen prepared the Jenkins for two monumental events that year: the murder of George Floyd and the start of the COVID-19 pandemic.
We were the first in our neighborhood to adapt food delivery. Uber Eats, DoorDash, Postmates, all of that. Yeah. No one was doing that. We were the first, and they didn't want to.
They wouldn't do it.
Yeah, they didn't want to because of our neighborhood.
Over here, we only had Uber Eats.
That was it, yeah.
It was it.
And
DoorDash
they took a chance on us. They went ahead and did it. Yeah, they would not come in.
And Uber was the only one that would come into the neighborhood, and then they saw how many orders we were getting.
Yes.
And then DoorDash was like, well, we should give it a shot.
Turns out to be the best decision we ever made, because COVID happened.
Yes.
Who knew COVID was coming? And I'm going to tell you, on a restaurant, he was worse than Mike Brown.
Yes. All the rules landed on the restaurant industry. And so, but once again, we have to always remind ourselves what Mike Brown taught us.
Yes.
Because without Mike Brown, there is no surviving COVID for us.
Yes.
Because he prepared us how to deliver. He
Yes.
prepared us how to be
Yes.
more interactive, to have the kiosks. It prepared us to be prepared for the worst.
Yes.
What the Jenkins did not see coming were the friends and fans they would gain from the entertainment industry, like actor Danny Glover and the late entertainer and civil rights activist Harry Belafonte.
Harry Belafonte, may he rest in peace.
Yeah.
I always say he's my second daddy. We got a picture, we look like I'm family, I'm his daughter.
Yeah.
But the deepest friendship to come out of the Cathy's Kitchen experience is with singer-songwriter Melissa Etheridge. Turns out that when Etheridge is on tour, she seeks out restaurants that are owned by women.
And she came to see Cathy, but Cathy wasn't.
Yeah, I wasn't here. And she left memorabilia on the counter, all kind of stuff, you know. And so when I came in, we were closed, and I looked at it. I said, hey, I called the girl at work that night. I said, hey, did this lady leave this stuff here herself? And she said, yeah, and she gave me a $100 tip. I said, you know who this is? So I went on Facebook and I posted a message. I said, hey, Melissa, I'm so sorry we missed you. If you're ever back in our neck of the woods, please give us a call. I would love to meet you. She responded back. If I'm ever there, I will. Time went on, Mike Brown, everything just kind of happened, all the ups and downs we were dealing with.
Maybe 8 years ago, she came back. She had a
Yes.
concert. And it was the time when nobody was in the restaurant because we didn't have that many customers.
Yes.
And Cathy here was a little low.
Yeah, I was down. It was one of my worst days. And she says, Cathy? And I say, Melissa? And we just gave each other a big hug. And we sat literally right over there in that booth and just chopped it up for hours, you know.
Hours.
So, you know, I called Jerome. He
Yeah,
came.
we came over, we talked, but it just found out that we just had more in common than it seemed.
And when Etheridge got back to California, she texted her new friends to ask if they wanted to visit her on the West Coast.
We flew out the next day, and we just hung out.
The Jenkins have been guests of Etheridge at the Grammy Awards 3 times. Sir Paul McCartney was one of many music luminaries with whom the entrepreneurs from Ferguson rubbed elbows. Cathy's Kitchen, meanwhile, has won a few awards of its own. A second location is opening in Delwood. And if you cruise down South Florissant Road, you'll see the restaurant has a lot of new neighbors.
It's about 13 to 14 restaurants on the street now. So
Oh,
at
yeah.
least 10 of them are
It's
new
almost like a renaissance
within
over
the
here.
last 3 years. You know, and to us, Cathy and I, we like to call it the new Black Wall Street.
Yes.
Because, you know, all these new Black restaurants, most people don't
And
know
business,
about
not
them.
all restaurants.
Yeah,
There's all
and
type
business.
of business. Real estate, clothing stores, ice cream shops. I mean, it's just a plethora of things to choose from now on this street. I always say this is kind of a community now. You can stroll down the street and
Yes.
enjoy it. You don't have to just come and park and go to one building. You could come in the back door, leave out the front door, and enjoy this entire block and have a great evening.
Yes.